It was a cold and quiet night on planet Alter 3. The human colony was small, far from the main city. Most people stayed inside after dark. The wind made strange sounds outside the windows, and the stars above were sharp and clear, like ice. David Stone, a 32-year-old engineer, was fixing a broken drone in his cabin. He liked working alone. It kept his mind busy. After losing his team in a mining accident last year, he had chosen this quiet post, far from noise, far from people. At exactly 22:13, someone knocked at his door. A slow, heavy knock. He froze. No one ever visited him, especially not this late. He stood up carefully and walked to the door. Through the security screen, he saw something strange. A tall figure stood outside in the snow, not human. Her skin was pale silver, her eyes glowing soft blue. She had long black robes, and behind her stood two small children holding her hands. David pressed the come button. "Who are you?" he asked. The woman spoke softly, her voice calm but strong. "I was told humans are warm and kind," she said. "I need your help." David hesitated. He looked again at the children. They looked tired, scared, and cold. The wind howled louder. Something inside him whispered, "Let them in." He unlocked the door. The woman stepped in slowly, the children close to her sides. Her eyes met his. "I am Sira," she said. "These are my children, Luma and Kier. We have nowhere to go tonight." David looked at the kids, then back at her. "What do you mean?" he asked. "This is a restricted zone. How did you get here?" She said nothing for a moment, just looked at her children. Then she said, "My mate is gone. My people turned their backs on us. I chose to live outside their rules. But the cold is too strong tonight. I heard humans are warm, physically and emotionally." David blinked. "You came here just for heat," he said, confused. "That and safety," she added. "Your cabin is the only shelter in this area. I will warm your bed, human, if you accept my plea." The words hit him hard, not because of the offer, but because of how serious she sounded. There was no flirtation in her tone, no emotion, just a calm statement of purpose. He shook his head. "You don't have to offer anything," he said. "I'm not like that. I just want to understand what's going on." She nodded slowly. "I did not mean to insult you," she said. "It is how things are done in my culture. When we ask for help, we offer comfort in return." David showed them into the main room. He gave the children warm blankets and let them sit near the small heater. They didn't speak, but their eyes followed every movement he made. Sira sat silently on the floor, her eyes never leaving her children. Later, as he made them some hot broth, he asked again, "Why come to me? Out of all people?" Sira looked up, her voice softer now. "You are human," she said. "You live far from others. You have no mate, no guards, no politics. You are safe." "Safe," he repeated. She nodded. "You lost people," she said quietly. "I can see it in your eyes. You carry grief, like I do." David looked away. She wasn't wrong. He hadn't spoken about the accident in months, and now here was a stranger, alien, yet understanding. "You said your people turned on you," he asked. "Why?" She took a long breath. "My mate died 6 cycles ago," she said. "In our tradition, widows return to the community home, and the children are raised by the council. But I could not let them take my children. They are mine, and I will raise them myself." "So they exiled you?" "Yes," she replied. "Since then, we have moved from place to place. But they are still searching." David narrowed his eyes. "Who's they?" Before she could answer, one of the kids, Luma, tugged at her robe and whispered something. Sira shook her head. "Not now, little one." David looked out the window. Far in the distance, past the snowy hills, a small light moved. It blinked, then vanished. His heart beat faster. Someone else was out there, but for now. He closed the door tight and turned back to the strange family in his living room. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he knew one thing. This night had changed everything. David woke up before sunrise. The storm outside had passed, but the cold still pressed against the cabin walls like a silent warning. He sat up on the edge of his bed and looked at the hallway. It was quiet, too quiet. He stepped out carefully. In the corner, near the heater, the two alien children still slept, curled in their blankets like small silver statues. But the mother Sira was gone. His heart skipped. He reached for his tool belt, just in case. But before he could move, the door clicked open behind him. She stepped in, carrying a large satchel of frozen roots and local fruits. Her long robe had ice around the edges, her silver skin shining with cold mist. "You have no food storage," she said calmly. "I hunted for what I could." David stared at her. "You went out alone." "There were lights out there last night. I saw them too," she replied. "That's why I moved fast. We don't have much time." He didn't ask what she meant by we, not yet. They sat across from each other at the small table. The children still slept, peaceful for now. The heater crackled beside them, giving a soft glow. "I need to know the truth," David said finally. "Why are they after you?" "Is it because of your children?" Sira nodded slowly. "My mate was not just a warrior," she said. "He was one of the high bloodline. His death created a power gap. Our children are part of that bloodline now." David leaned back. "So they want the kids, to raise them, control them," Sira said. "They'll say it's tradition, but it's politics," David sighed. "I'm just an engineer," he said. "I fix things. I don't fight royal wars." Sira's eyes locked on his. "You're more than that," she said. "You're human. You have a choice. Something my people don't understand." He looked at the children, still sleeping. "They're just kids," he said. "They didn't ask for any of this." "No," Sira said, "but they were born into it. And I would die before I let them be used." There was a silence between them, heavy but not empty. Then Sira reached into her robe and pulled out a small black orb. It pulsed gently, with blue lines. "What is that?" David asked. "It's a beacon," she said. "If activated, it sends our location to the nearest Zarlian council ships. They'll come within a day. And you didn't use it." "I thought about it," she admitted, "but something changed last night." David narrowed his eyes. "What changed?" "You," she said simply. "You let strangers into your home. You gave warmth without demand. That is rare, even among my people." David shook his head. "I still don't understand why me. There are better fighters, smarter leaders." "Because you're not involved," she interrupted. "You have no agenda, no side. You only have your heart. That makes you dangerous to people who live by power." The orb sat on the table between them like a choice. If she turned it on, they'd be safe for now, but the children would be taken. If she didn't, they'd be hunted, but free. David stood up and walked to the window, outside. The snow was glowing under the first light of dawn. He turned back. "What do you want from me, Sira?" She didn't hesitate. "I want you to be a shield," she said. "Not with weapons, but with your presence. If you stand with us, others will think twice. You are human, and that means something to them." David laughed once, dry and unsure. "I never thought just being human would matter this much." Sira stepped closer. Her voice was quiet but powerful. "I will not ask for your bed again," she said, "but I ask for your roof, your fire, and maybe your courage." He looked at the children again. One of them stirred in sleep and mumbled something that sounded almost like "Papa." His chest tightened. He turned to the table, picked up the orb, and without a word, dropped it into the fireplace. The soft hum died with a spark of blue flame. Sira didn't move, but her eyes shone with something that looked like relief or maybe trust. David looked at her. "I guess that's the deal then," he said. "We fight together." And outside, far beyond the snowy ridge, something watched from behind the trees. The light blinked once, then vanished. The snowstorm had passed, but a strange silence hung over the valley. David stepped outside with a scanner in hand, searching for any signs of life. No movement, no heat signatures, nothing but cold wind and frozen hills. Still, he felt like They were being watched back inside the cabin. Sira sat with her children, brushing their fine white hair. She hummed a melody, low and soft. The tune didn't sound happy or sad, it sounded old, like something passed down for generations. David leaned against the doorframe and watched for a moment. "Is that a lullaby?" he asked. Sira looked up slowly. "It's a funeral song," she said. "My people sing it when the future is uncertain." That answer chilled him more than the wind outside. He sat across from her as the children began to nap again. "Sira," he said carefully, "I need to know the rules." She raised an eyebrow. "Rules? Yes," David replied. "Of your people, your traditions, your enemies. If I'm going to protect you, I need to understand what I'm standing against." Sira placed her hands on her knees and took a breath. Then she spoke slowly, like revealing a secret not meant to be shared. "We are the Zeralians," she began, "a cold-born species from the twin moon colonies. Our bodies adapt to ice but not to loneliness. We are social, bonded, guided by ancient codes." David listened, focused. "What codes?" Sira looked at him with eyes that glowed faint blue. "Zeralian society is based on 3 circles," she said. "Circle of blood, circle of duty, circle of warmth." David tilted his head. "Explain." "Circle of blood means family is chosen by the council," she said. "Mates are paired for bloodline strength, not love. When a mate dies, the widow returns to the center, and the children are raised by the circle. You broke that rule." "Yes," she said. "I broke it by keeping my children, by running, by hiding. They say I'm unstable, unfit, dishonorable, but they do not see what I see." David frowned. "What do you see?" Sira looked at her children, her voice quiet. "But they are not tools," she said. "They are hearts, voices, dreams. And I will not let them become weapons in robes." David stood up and walked toward the heater, poking the coals. He felt anger rising not just for her, but for the children who were born into politics, who couldn't even understand what danger hunted them. "So you left the circle of blood," he said. "What about the others?" She nodded. "I left the circle of duty too, which says one must obey the council without question. That is how they control us, duty before thought, law before truth." "And the last one?" David asked. "The circle of warmth," Sira smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "That one they don't speak of often," she said. "It is the bond of closeness, of chosen comfort, of finding someone not because of blood or law, but because your soul calls to theirs." David looked at her, unsure how to respond. "That's rare in your people." "Very," she said. "They see it as weakness, because true warmth makes you question orders." A knock suddenly hit the back of the cabin, 3 sharp taps. David froze. Sira shot up and pulled her children close. Another knock, slower this time, almost like a signal. David grabbed his pulse torch and moved to the back door. "Stay here," he said. He opened the door fast, but no one was there. Just snow, empty space, and a small black symbol drawn on the ice with a finger. A circle with 3 lines cutting through it. He took a step back. "What is this?" he asked Sira. Showing her the symbol on his scanner, her face paled. "It means they've found us," she said. "That is the mark of recall. They are warning me to return the children or face capture." David stared at the symbol again. "So they don't attack yet, they wait." "Yes," she said. "They follow rules, even in war." David looked outside again. The wind stronger now. "Then we use their rules against them," he said. He turned to her, his voice low. "We have time to prepare." Sira watched him for a long moment. "You speak like a protector," she said. "I speak like someone who's had enough of bullies," David replied, and for the first time, she smiled, not the soft, polite smile of thanks, but the rare, dangerous smile of someone who sees a partner in rebellion. Far above the valley, a silent drone hovered, cloaked, blinking once before disappearing into the clouds. The game had begun, and David Stone was no longer just a host. He was now part of the circle of warmth, and he had chosen his side. The morning came with no sun. Only a pale gray sky and the uneasy quiet of deep winter. David stood outside, clearing a line of sight between his cabin and the ridge with an old snow cutter. The mark left by the Zaralian hunters had been buried overnight, but the fear it planted remained inside the cabin. Sira was teaching the children how to read earth symbols. They sat with small pads, drawing letters with curious fingers. Their minds were sharp, but their eyes always watched the windows. At noon, a soft tone echoed through the cum system. Someone was at the outer gate. David approached the terminal. Two figures stood at the threshold, wrapped in deep green robes with hoods pulled low. They wore translator badges and bore no visible weapons, but their silence felt loud. He pressed the speaker. "State your business," he said. One of them stepped forward. "I am Council Envoy Trell." The voice was smooth. "We are here on peaceful terms, seeking one who may have lost her way." David didn't answer right away. Sira had already moved to the hallway, her hand gripping the wall. Her face showed no fear, only tension like a cord pulled too tight. "They're not soldiers," she said quietly, "but they are worse." David turned back to the cum. "No lost ones here," he said. "Just snow, silence, and bad radio." The envoy gave a thin smile. "We understand," he said. "Still, may we share a warm drink? Perhaps something from your world?" "We've traveled far, and we have stories to trade." David paused. If he refused, they might come back with force. If he allowed them in, he could learn their intent. He opened the gate. Just a little minutes later, the two envoys sat inside the cabin, steam rising from cups of rehydrated coffee. They did not drink, only held the cups like props. "You live alone," said the second envoy. "You must enjoy the quiet." David shrugged. "Quiet doesn't ask questions," he said, "unlike visitors." The first envoy smiled again, thin as a paper cut. "There was a female," he said slowly. "Her bondmate perished in the northern firestorm. She refused to return to the circle. She stole 2 lives that belonged to the council." Sira stayed hidden in the hallway. Her children huddled in the storage room, silent as shadows. David leaned forward. "Sounds like a family problem," he said. "Not my kind of business." Second envoy tilted his head. "Everything on this land becomes council business," he said, "especially when children carry bloodlines that affect treaties." David's grip tightened on the cup. "So this is about politics, not protection. It's about control." "You speak boldly for one who is not involved," said the envoy. David met his eyes. "I wasn't involved," he said, "until you brought it to my doorstep." The air in the room thickened. One of the envoys placed a small device on the table round. Dark, humming softly, a memory seeker. It could scan environmental traces, detect energy signatures, identify biological heat left by different species. David stared at it. "You turn that on, and I turn you off," he said, voice cold. His hand hovered near the pulse torch beneath the table. The first envoy lifted his hand slowly, turning the device off. "No need for threat," he said. "We will leave for now, but you should understand protecting her makes you a part of the rebellion." They stood and walked to the door without finishing their drinks. Before stepping out, one turned and said quietly, "The circle watches, human." When they were gone, David locked the door and triple-checked the scanner. Then he turned to the hallway. "They'll be back," he said. Sira stepped out, her voice calm. "They always come twice," she said. "Next time they won't ask." David looked around the room, thinking. They needed a new plan. He turned to Sira. "I need to know everything," he said. "Not just rules, not just names. I need to know what they'll do next." Sira walked over to a small pouch and pulled something out, a strange cube made of clear stone. Glowing softly inside, David stared. "What is that?" "It's part of what they're really after," she said. "It holds my mate's final memory. His death." "No," she said, looking him in the eye. "His warning outside." The clouds shifted, and far in the distance, a dark shape appeared over the mountains, hovering, watching, waiting. The wind outside howled again, but it wasn't just weather this time. The mountains echoed with something deeper, something mechanical. Above the clouds, a shadow passed once, then disappeared. David stared at the glowing memory cube in Sierra's hands. It pulsed gently, as if it were alive. "What do you mean?" "A warning," he asked. Sierra placed the cube on the table and stepped back. "This contains my mate's last thoughts, recorded at the edge of death," she said. "He knew something the council wants to bury." David bent closer, inside the cube. Ghost-like lights floated around his shape. It looked like a Zeralian figure standing in fire, whispering. Then the image flickered, glitched, and reset. "I haven't unlocked it yet," Sierra said. "It's protected by his blood signature, but one of my children might be able to open it. That's why they're chasing you," David said. "They want this memory. They want to control what the truth says." Sierra nodded slowly. "But there's more," she said, her voice soft. "There's something I haven't told you." David stood up, his eyes narrowing. "What is it?" She hesitated. Then her voice cracked slightly. "My mate didn't die in battle," she said. "He was killed by his own brother." David froze. "What?" "Yes," she said. "The council covered it up, called it a rebel ambush. But I found out the truth. My mate discovered corruption inside the circle of blood. He was going to expose them. They silenced him before he could speak." David felt the weight of her words press against his chest. "And the children?" he asked. "They're heirs to that knowledge." "Yes," she whispered. "They carry the same blood, and that makes them both valuable and dangerous." Before David could respond, a soft knock came from the storage room. Little Luma peeked out, her eyes wide and unsure. "Is it true?" she asked. "Did Papa get hurt by his own brother?" Sierra's breath caught in her throat. She hadn't realized the child had been listening. She knelt down, arms open. Luma ran to her, hugging her tightly. David watched quietly, then turned away, his mind racing. A part of him wanted to help, protect, do the right thing. But another part whispered that this was too deep now. Too political, too alien, too dangerous later. That evening, David stood alone near the comms panel. He stared at the emergency signal switch, his finger hovering over it. One press, and Earth Command would come. They'd take Sierra, the kids, the cube, all of it. He could go back to fixing drones and pretending none of this ever happened. Behind him, Sierra entered the room quietly. "I can feel you thinking," she said gently. David didn't turn. "I don't know if I can do this," he said. "This isn't just hiding a family anymore. This is war-level stuff." "I understand," she said. "You never asked for this." He finally turned. "But you knew," he said. "You knew there was more danger, more truth, and you still came to me." "Yes," she said. "Because I had no one else. And because I believed you would care." David's face hardened. "I care," he said. "But I also need the truth. All of it." Sierra stepped forward slowly. "There's one more thing," she said. "My mate's brother, the one who killed him, he's coming here." David's eyes went wide. "Here?" "Yes," she whispered. "He was the one flying above the ridge. He always hunts with silence first." David backed away slightly. "We need to move," he said. "We need to get to the transport bay in the southern pass." Sierra touched his arm. "We can't," she said. "The pass was sealed last week. Only one way remains through the frozen canyons." David looked at her, then at the kids who now stood together. The boy Kier held the cube close to his chest like a treasure. David took a deep breath. "Then we move at first light," he said. "But if your mate's brother shows up before then," Sierra nodded. "We fight," she said simply. As night fell, the stars above the mountain blinked. But one of them didn't blink. It moved, slowly, silently, toward the valley, and inside that moving star, a figure stood by the viewing glass, a tall Zarlian in dark armor, holding a mark of blood on his chest. His eyes glowed with cold fire, and his voice echoed through the ship. "Find the human," he said, "and burn everything around him." *. The night was too quiet, even the wind had stopped, the snow outside. The shelter lay untouched, perfect, undisturbed, and that was the problem. David couldn't sleep. He sat by the window, holding a scanner in one hand and a pulse torch in the other. He had reset the defense grid, set up heat traps, and checked every door twice, but still, he felt something, like a breath being held just before the strike. Behind him, Sira was whispering to the cube with her son. Kier. The memory orb flickered every time the boy's fingers touched it. He was close, just a few pulses away from unlocking the truth. "Why tonight?" David muttered. "Why not wait until dawn?" Sira looked up, her voice calm but certain. "Because that's how he hunts," she said. "No speeches, no warnings. He lets fear grow like ice in your bones, and then—" "He moves." David stood up fast. "Then let's make sure we're not the ones frozen." He stepped outside for one last check, and that's when he saw it. Footprints, not just one set, 3, maybe 4, leading from the tree line to the south wall of the cabin. They hadn't come through the gate. They had walked across the snow in silence. David turned to run back, but something moved behind him, a sharp sound like metal scraping bone. He spun just in time to block the first strike. A cloaked figure lunged from the snowbank with a blade of black crystal. David's torch lit up the night in a burst of blue fire. The attacker screamed and vanished into the darkness. He kicked the door open. "They're here," he shouted. Sira grabbed the children and pulled them behind the center pillar. David slammed the lock panel, sealing the door. A second blast hit the roof. They were coming from above now, fast, quiet, like ghosts wrapped in shadow. Sira tossed David a shock charge. "We need to make them visible," she said. "They use cloaks that bend light, but they still have heat." David activated the charge and threw it into the hallway. A pulse of orange light exploded. 3 figures appeared in brief flashes, their armor humming with cold energy. Sira moved like she'd done this before, in one smooth motion. She pulled a compact rail blade from her robes and slashed through the first attacker's leg. He dropped hard and didn't rise. David tackled the second, using his engineering wrench like a warhammer. His body moved on instinct, survival mixed with something deeper, rage. They had brought war into his home. They had come for children. The last figure dashed past him, straight for the back room. "For the memory cube," Kier screamed. "Papa's memory." David dove across the floor, reaching the attacker just as he grabbed the cube. He wrestled the figure to the ground. Sparks flew as they rolled into a live circuit panel. Electric current danced around them. David gritted his teeth, pressed the torch into the attacker's side, and held it. A final screech, then silence. David stood up. Covered in blood and static burns, the cube lay safe, flickering gently on the ground. Kier rushed to it, holding it close. "It's okay," he whispered. "I won't let them take you." Sira stood by the doorway, breathing heavy. Her blade was stained, but her hands didn't shake. She looked at David. "You fought like one of us," she said. David didn't answer. He looked around the room, walls cracked, furniture shattered, blood on the floor. But the children were alive. The cube was safe. And the enemy was dead. For now. Sira walked over and placed her hand on his arm. "You chose this," she said softly. "You could have run, you could have signaled Earth, but you stayed." David looked down at his hand. It was trembling now, but only slightly. "I don't know what I am anymore," he said. "Engineer, guardian, traitor to Earth Command." Sira tilted her head. "No," she said. "You are warmth. You are the only thing standing between us and the cold." Suddenly, the cube began to glow brighter. Kier looked up. "It's opening," he said. "Papa's memory, it's showing something." They all turned as the image formed in the air. A hologram of Sira's mate appeared, standing inside a council chamber. His voice was calm but urgent. "They will kill me for what I know," the memory said, "but someone must protect the truth. The council is not what it claims to be. They've made a deal with something not from this world." David's heart dropped. "What does he mean?" Sira looked at him with fear for the first time. "It means she said slowly. This is bigger than Zeralians. This is a war coming to your world next, and somewhere above the clouds. A signal was sent, not by Earth, not by the Council, but by something far older and far less human. The cabin was no longer a home. It was a battlefield, walls burned, windows cracked, blood on the floor, and yet inside it felt more alive than ever. David stood at the center, staring at the glowing memory above the cube, Sira's mate now. Just a recording finished his message. His final words chilled the room. The Council has made contact with an ancient species, the voice said. Not native to this galaxy. They promised knowledge, but it came at a cost. Our people are no longer the masters of our own choices. The image flickered, then disappeared. Silence followed, deep and heavy. Even the children stood still. Understanding more than their age should allow, David took a slow breath. So they sold you out, he said. They sold all of us out. Sira nodded, her voice tight. My mate tried to warn them, she said. They erased him. Now they will come for anyone who remembers his voice. David turned to the scanner. A new signal blinked on the edge of the radar. One large ship, inbound, not Zarlian. Not Earth, something else. They're here, he said. Not the Council. The others. Sira stared at the screen, her hands trembling now. We're out of time, she said. If they land, nothing will survive this place. David looked at the children, Kier holding the cube like a lifeline. Luma gripping her mother's robe. They didn't cry, they just waited for his answer. He turned and opened the hidden panel in the floor. Inside was an old Earth Command beacon prototype class, high signal range. He held it up and looked at Sira. I send this. Earth Command comes with guns. He sighed. They'll save us, but take the children, or we stay hidden, Sira whispered, and die as free souls. David stared at the beacon. His thumb hovered over the activation switch, and then, slowly, he placed it back in the box. I made my choice days ago, he said. I protect this family. Sira looked at him, her eyes wide. You call us family. You are, he said. Not by blood, but by every fight we've shared. Suddenly, the entire cabin shook. The alien vessel entered the lower atmosphere, a sound unlike anything David had ever heard, like a song being ripped in half filled the air. He turned to Sira. We can't hold them off alone, he said, but maybe we don't have to. She frowned. What do you mean? David rushed to his tool bench, pulling wires and scraps of tech together. He held up a small orb, the one the Zarlian envoy had left on the table days ago, the memory seeker. What if we show them the truth, he said. Project the memory not just to Earth or the Council, but across every channel in orbit. Let the galaxy see what's coming. Sira blinked. You'd give up secrecy. I'd give up anything to stop them. He replied. They connected the cube to the orb, and David tied it into the Tower's antenna. The hologram glowed brighter, ready to speak to the stars. Outside, the alien vessel landed with a pulse of gravity that bent the trees. Figures stepped out tall, thin, wrapped in skin-like armor. Eyes like black mirrors, silent, watching. The broadcast started. The image of Sira's mate filled the sky above the cabin. His voice echoed across every open frequency, his warning loud, clear, and undeniable. For the first time, the figures outside paused. They looked up not at the humans, not at the children, but at the truth, and they stopped. One of them tilted its head and stepped back. Another turned and walked away. No words, no battle, only silence and retreat. David lowered his weapon slowly. They came for lies, he said, but they weren't ready for truth. Sira stepped beside him, her voice soft, but full of strength. You didn't just protect us, she said. You changed everything. The children ran to him and wrapped their arms around his legs. Kier whispered, Are you our father now? David knelt down. I don't know what I am, he said, but I know I'll never leave you. Later that night, the stars returned. Peaceful, unbroken, the cabin was still broken. But no one cared, because inside it, for the first time in a long time, there was warmth, not just from the heater, but from a bond stronger than any bloodline, a family made, not born.